Chapter 49 Grimes 2018. Claire Boucher, known as Grimes, dressed for a performance with Musk at the Metropolitan Museum Gala. Okay, I'm going to read Elon Musk biopic by Isaac Isaac Walter Isaacson. Okay. EM plus CB. Every now and then, often at the most complex of times, the creators of our simulation, those rascals who conjure up what we are led to believe is reality, drop in a sparky new element, one that creates chaotic new subplots, and thus into Musk's life in the spring of 2018. Amid the emotional tsunami caused by his breakup with Amber Heard, came a wave-like waver of sounds. Claire Boucher, known as Grimes, a smart and spellbinding performance artist whose appearance would lead to three new children on and off dem- domesticity, and once would lead to three new children on and off domesticity, and even public battle with unhinged rapper. Okay. Born in Vancouver, Grimes had produced 4 albums by the times he started doing Musk. He started dating Musk. Drawing on science fiction themes and memes, her mesmerizing music combined sonic texture with elements of dream pop and electronica. She had an adventure some intellectual curiosity that led her to become interested in electric ideas, such as a thought experiment known as Rocco's Basilisk, which posits that artificial intelligence could get out of control and torture any human who had not helped it gain power. There are the types of things that she and Musk worry about. When Musk wanted to tweet a pun about it, he Google searched to find an image and he discovered that Grimes had made it an element of her 2015 music video Flesh Without Blood. She and Musk got into a Twitter exchange that led in the modern way to direct messaging and texting. They had met before, and ironically it was when Musk was in an elevator with Amber Heard. Remember that elevator meeting? Grimes asked during a late night conversation I had with her and Musk. I mean, that was super weird. Of all the times to meet, Musk agreed. You were staring at me very intensely. No, she corrected. You were the one giving me a weird stare. After they met again through the Roku's Basilisk exchange on Twitter, Musk invited her to fly up to Fremont to visit his factory, his idea of a good day. It was the end of March 2018 amid the crazed push to make 5,000 cars per week. We just walked the floor all night and I watched him try to fix things, Grimes says. The next night, while driving her to a restaurant, he showed how fast the car accelerated, then took his hands off the wheel, covered his eyes, and let her experience autopilot. I was like, oh shit, this guy's fucking crazy, she says. The car was signaling and changing lanes by itself. It felt like a scene out of a Marvel movie. At the restaurant, he carved EM plus CB on the wall. When she compared his powers to those of Gandalf, he gave her a rapid-fire trivia cast on Lord of the Rings. He wanted to see whether she was truly a faithful fan. She passed. That mattered to me, Musk says. As a gift, she gave him a box of animal bones she had collected. In the evenings, they listened to Dan Carlin's Hardcore History and other history podcasts and audiobooks. The only way I could be in a serious relationship is if the person I'm dating can also listen to an hour of like war history before bed. She says Elon and I had gone through so many topics like ancient Greece and Napoleon and the military strategies of World War One. This was all happening as Musk was going through. his mental and work related tailspins of 2018. Man, you seem like you are in a really rough headspace, she said to him. Do you want me to bring my music stuff over and I can work at your house? He said he would like that. He did not want to be lonely. She figured that she would stay with him for a few weeks until his emotional turmoil settled down. But the storm just sort of never stopped. And then you were just on the ship and on the ride, and I just stayed there. She accompanied him to the factory some nights when he was in a battle mode. In battle mode, he's always looking out for what's wrong with the motor, what's wrong with the engine, and the heat shield, the liquid oxygen valve, she says. One night they went out to dinner and Musk suddenly went silent, thinking. After a minute or two, he asked if she had a pen. She pulled an eyeliner out of her purse. He took it and began to draw on his napkin an idea for modifying an engine heat shield. I realized that even when I was with him, there would be times when his mind would go somewhere else, usually to an issue at work. She says. In May, taking a brief break from the Tesla factory production hell, he flew with her to New York to attend the Metropolitan Museum's annual gala, a glittery extravaganza featuring just over the top fashion and costumes. Musk suggested ideas for her outfit, a medieval punk black and white ensemble with a hard glass corset and a necklace made of spikes uh, that resembled the Tesla logo. He even had someone from the Tesla design team help execute it. He wrote a white he wore a white t-shirt with clerical collar and a pure white tuxedo jacket with the faint inscription Novus Ordo Secularum, a Latin phrase heralding a new order of the ages. Rap battle. Despite wanting to help him through his turmoil, Grimes was not a calming influence. The intensity that made her an edgy artist brought with a messy lifestyle. She stayed up most of the night and slept most of the day. She was demanding and distrustful of Musk's household stuff and she had a difficult relationship with his mother. Musk was a drama addict, and Grimes had a companion trait. She was a drama magnet. Whether she intended or not, she attracted it. Just when the Thai cave incident and the turmoil about taking Tesla private were spinning out of control in August 2018, Grimes invited the rapper Aziala Banks to stay with her to Musk's house and collaborate on some music. She had forgotten that she and Musk had made plans to visit Kimball in Boulder. Grimes told Banks she could stay at the guest house for the weekend. On that Friday morning, 3 days after his take private tweet, Musk got up, did a workout, made a few calls, and caught a short glimpse of Banks in his house. When he is focused on other things, he doesn't pay much attention to the things around him. He wasn't quite sure who she was, other than a friend of Grimes. Upset that Grimes blew off their recording session so she could be with Musk, Banks unleashed a torrent of abuse on her well-followed Instagram. I waited around all weekend while Grimes coddled her boyfriend for being too stupid to know not to go on Twitter while on acid. She posted. This was false. Musk never used acid, but it understandably piqued the interest of not only the press but also the SEC. Banks' postings about crimes and Musk got progressively crazier. Lol, Elon Musk is better off hiring an escort. At least an escort would have kept her mouth shut about his business. He's got some dirty sneaker inbred out of the woods Pabst beer pussy meth head junkie running around town telling everyone everything about him, all because he needed a date to be the date to the Met Gala to hide his shrinking dick from Amber Heard. Lol. He's the he's on the Down syndrome spectrum, DSS. There's something not quite right about that man. I wouldn't give him the credit of calling him an alien. He's a mutant. Fucking crackers. The last time I tried working with a white bitch. I don't know who said this, but okay. When Business Insider did a phone interview with her, Banks connected the situation to Musk's pledge to take Tesla private. Shanghai, Chapter 50. With Robin Rain in Shanghai, Elon Musk. Tesla 2015 to 2019. We kept explaining why it would help China to have Tesla built an auto factory, even it wasn't a joint venture, Rand says. As part of President Xi Jinping's plans to make China a clean energy innovation center, China finally agreed in early 2018 to let Tesla build a factory without having to enter into a joint venture. Ren and his team were able to negotiate a deal for more than 200 acres near Shanghai along with low interest loans. Hmm. Rain flew back to the US to discuss the deal with Musk in February 2018. Unfortunately, that was in the midst of Musk's production hell at the Nevada battery factory, and he was in such a frenzy walking the floor that Rain could not corner him. They flew to Los Angeles together late that night, but it was only after they landed that Rain got a chance to talk to him. Rand started to go through a deck slide deck with maps, financing commitments, and deal terms, but Musk did not look at them. Instead, he stared out of the window of his plane for almost a full minute. Then he looked Ren directly and in the eye. Do you believe this is the right thing? Ren was so taken aback that he paused for a few seconds before saying yes. Okay, let's do it, Musk said and left the plane. The formal signing ceremony with the Chinese leaders came on July 10, 2018. Musk arrived in Shanghai directly from being waist deep in water in a Thai cave after delivering the mini sub he had built to rescue the stranded young soccer players. He changed into a dark suit and stood stiffly in a red-draped banquet hall as they all exchanged toast. The first Tesla began rolling out of the factory in October 2019. Within 2 years, China would be making more than half of Tesla's vehicles. The first Tesla began rolling out of the factory in October 2019. Within 2 years, China would be making more than half of Tesla's vehicles. Chapter 51 Cybertruck Tesla 2018 to 2019 with Franz von Holzhausen discussing Cybertruck design 2018. Steve. So, Musk then added another design reference that inspired him, the Lotus Esprit of the late 1970s, a pointy wedge-nosed British sports car. Specifically, he was enamored with a version that appeared in the 1977 James Bond movie The Spy Who Loved Me. Musk bought the one that was used in the movie for close to $1 million and displayed it in the Tesla design studio. The brainstorming was fun, but it still did not lead to a concept that excited them. For inspiration, they visited the Peterson Automotive Museum, where they noticed something surprising. We realized, Von Holzman says, that pickup trucks basically haven't changed in their form or their manufacturing process in 80 years. That led Musk to shift his focus to something more basic. What materials should they use to build the truck's body? By rethinking the materials and even the physics of the vehicle structure, it could open up the possibility of wildly new designs. Ah. As he looked at the pictures on display boards, Musk gravitated to the ones that had a futuristic cyber look. They had recently settled on the design for the Model Y, a crossover version of the Model 3, and Musk had been talked out of some of his more radical and unconventional suggestions, having played it safe with the Model Y. He did not. Uh, he did not want he did not want what to happen when when the design of the pickup truck. Let's be bold, he said. Let's surprise people. Every time someone would point to a picture that was more conventional, Musk would push back and point to the car from the video game Halo or in the trailer of the forthcoming game Cyberpunk 2077 or from Riley Scott's movie Blade Runner. Oh, Blade Runner, I saw that movie. His son, Saxon, who is autistic, had recently asked an offbeat question that resonated. Why doesn't the future look like the future? Musk would quote Saxon's question repeatedly as he said to the design team that Friday, I want the future to look like the future. There were a few dissenting voices suggesting that something too futuristic would not sell. After all, this was a pickup truck. I don't care if no one buys it, he said at the end of the session. We are not doing a traditional boarding truck. We can always do that later. I want to build something that's cool, like Don't Resist Me. But by July 2019, Von Holzhausen and Morris had built a full-size full-size mock-up of futuristic jarring cyber design with sharp angles and diamond facets. One Friday, they surprised Musk, who had not yet seen it, by putting it in the middle of the showroom floor next to the more traditional model they had been considering. When Musk walked in the door leading from the SpaceX factory, his reaction was instantaneous. That's it, he exclaimed. I love it. We are doing that. Yes, this is what we are going to do. Yes, okay, done. It became known as the Cybertruck. A majority of people in this studio hated it, says von Holzhausen. They were like, you can't be serious. They didn't want to have anything to do with it. It was just too weird. Some of the engineers started working secretly on an alternative version. Von Holzman, who is as gentle as Musk is brusque, spent time listening carefully to their concerns. If you don't have buy-in from the people around you, it's hard to get things done, he says. Musk was less patient. When some designers pushed him to at least do some market testing, Musk replied, I don't do focus groups. When the design of the truck was finished in August 2019, Musk told the team he wanted to reveal a working prototype publicly that November, in 3 months rather than the 9 months it normally takes to make a running prototype. We don't be able to have one that we can actually drive by then. Von Horstman said. Musk repeated, yes, we will. His unrealistic deadlines usually do not pan out, but in some cases they do. It forced the team to come together, work 24/7, and rally around that day. Rally around that date. One horseman says, on November 21, 2019, the truck was driven onto the stage in the design studio for a presentation on to the press and invited guests. There were gasps. Many in the crowd clearly couldn't believe that this was actually the vehicle they'd come to see. CNN reported the Cybertruck looks like a large metal tapezoid on wheels, more like an art piece than a truck. There was also an unexpected surprise when Walls Horseman tried to show the toughness of the truck. He swung at the body with a sledgehammer, which didn't make a dent. Then he threw a metal ball at one of the armor glass windows to show it wasn't to break. This surprised it cracked. Oh my fucking god, Musk said. Well, maybe that was a little too hard. Overall, the presentation was not a great success. Tesla stock dropped 6% the next day. But Musk was satisfied. The trucks have been the same for a very long time, like for 100 years, he told the crowd. We want to try something different. Afterward, he took Grimes for a spin in the prototype to Nobu restaurant where the valet parkers just started at it without touching on the way out. Pursued by paparazzi, he drove over a pylon in the parking lot with a no left turn sign and turned left. Wow. Starlink Chapter 52 SpaceX 2015 to 2018. Chapter 54 Autonomy Day, Tesla, April 2019. Night after night, Musk sat upright on the edge of his bed next to Grimes, unable to sleep. Some nights he did not move until dawn. Tesla had survived the surges and storms of 2018, but it needed to raise another round of financing to keep operating, and the short sellers were still circling like vultures. In March 2019, he re-entered crisis drama mode. We have to raise money or we are fucked. He said to Grimes one dawn. He needed to come up with a grand idea that would turn the narrative around to convince investors that Tesla would become the world's most valuable company. One night he left the light on and just stared into space silently. Every couple hours I would wake up and he was just still sitting there in the thinking man statue pose, just completely silent on the edge of the bed. Grimes says when she woke up that morning, he said to her, I solved it. The solution, he explained, was for Tesla to host an autonomy day where investors would get a demonstration of how Tesla was building a car that could drive itself. Ever since 2016, Musk had been pushing his vision of a completely autonomous car, one that could be summoned and drive itself with nobody behind the steering wheel. In fact, that year he began trying to get rid of the steering wheel altogether. At his insistence, von Holzhausen and his designers had been producing models of a robotaxi with no breakers or pedals or steering wheel. Musk would go into the design studio on Fridays, pull out his phone, and take pictures of a different mock-ups. This is where the world is going, he said at one session. Let's push ourselves there. Every year, he had regularly predicted in public that a fully autonomous car was just a year or so away, except that it wasn't. Full autonomy continued to be a receding mirage, always a year or so away. Nevertheless, Musk concluded that the best way to raise more funding was to hold a dramatic demonstration showing that autonomous vehicles were the way that the company would become phenomenally profitable. He was convinced that his team could put on a demo. He even showed off a credible prototype of what the future would be. He set a marker for our week for 4 weeks away. On April 22nd, 2019, they would demonstrate a version of a partially self-driving car for what would be Tesla's first autonomy day. We have to show people this is real. This is real, he said. Even though it wasn't yet, the result was another of Musk's hallmark surges, an all-hands-on-deck 24 out of 7 frenzy to produce an outcome by deadline that was artificial and unrealistic. Musk's autopilot surge not only drove his team crazy, it drove him crazy as well. He had to divorce himself from reality in order to get out of a shitty situation when he thought disaster was imminent. Imminent, says Shivon Zilis, the close friend he had recruited to help with artificial intelligence projects. He once asked me to tell him if he'd ever gone bananas. This was the only time I have ever walked in the room, looked at him and said the word bananas. This was the first time he saw me cry. One evening, his young cousin James Musk, a software coder on the autopilot team, was having dinner with the team's leader, Milan Kovac, at a fancy San Francisco restaurant when his phone rang. I saw it was from Elon and thought, oh, this is bad, he remembers. He walked to the parking lot where he listened to Musk describe in a dark tone how Tesla would go bankrupt if they didn't do something dramatic. For more than an hour, Musk questioned James about who on the autopilot team was really good. As often happened when he went into crisis mode, he wanted to clean house and fire people even in the midst of a surge. He decided he needed to get rid of all the top managers of the autopilot team, but Omid Afshar intervened to convince him to at least wait until after Autonomy Day. Shivan Zilis, who had the thankless task of trying to serve as a buffer between Musk and the team, also tried to delay the firings, as did Sam Teller. Musk reluctantly agreed to wait until right after Autonomy Day, but he wasn't happy. He moved Zilis out of Tesla to a job at Neuralink. Teller also ended up leaving during the turmoil. James Musk was given the task of trying to integrate into the autopilot software the ability to see red and green traffic lights, a pretty basic task that was not yet part of the system. He got it work pretty well, but it became clear that the team would not be able to meet Musk's challenge of demonstrating a car that would drive on its own through Palo Alto. As Autonomy Day neared, he scaled his demand back to a task that was merely, as he later described it, insanely difficult. The car would drive around the Tesla headquarters, go onto the highway, do a loop involving 7 turns, and then return. We did not believe we could do that. We could do what he demanded, but he believed we could, says Anand Swaminathan, a member of the autopilot team. In just weeks, we were able to make it do 7 difficult turns. In his Autonomy Day presentation, Musk mixed, as he often did, vision and hype. Even in his own head, he blurred the line between what he believed and what he wanted to believe. Do not confuse yourself what you believe and what you want to believe. Tesla, he said, yet again was within a year of creating a fully autonomous vehicle. At that point, the company would deploy 1 million robotaxis that people could summon for rides. On its story, CNBC reported that Musk presented bold visionary promises that only his most loyal followers would take at face value. Nor did Musk fully impress major investors. We asked a lot of tough questions when we had an analyst call with him afterwards, says Joe Faith, the investment manager at T. Rowe Price. He kept saying, "You guys just don't get it," and then he hung up on us. The skepticism was warranted. A year later, indeed 4 years later, there would not be a million Tesla robotics or even one of them driving autonomously on city streets. But underneath Musk's hype and willful fantasy was a vision that he remained convinced would, like reusable rockets, someday transform our lives. Chapter 55, Gigataxis, Tesla 2020 to 2021. Omid Afshar, Austin. So that's it for today, I guess. We will read from chapter 55, Gigataxis, Tesla 2020 to 2021, Omid Afshar, tomorrow. See ya.